So when you kill a nice whitetail buck, you typically want to get it measured, see how much it scores, and then everybody usually wants to make some sort of mount out of it. When you look at something like a head and shoulder mount, those can get really pricey really fast. Growing up, what I was always shown by my dad, by my grandpa, was a skull cap mount. Now with a skull cap mount, it's not as prestigious, it's not as traditional looking, it's not as classic looking as your full head and shoulder mount. But when it comes to budget, when it comes to space in your home, things like that, a skull cap mount is a really great way to display your deer. What I like about doing something as simple as a skull cap mount is you can still make a really nice looking deer mount for your rack without breaking the bank, without spending a lot of money. This is something you can do in a very budget-friendly way. It still can look really nice if you just take a few pieces of supplies that you can gather up on your own or a local trophy shop in your town. So all the supplies it takes for me to do one of these is a cedar or any type of wood slice that you like. You could pick out something like a hedge that's a nice yellow color. You could pick out something that's really just any kind of wood that you like the color of or you like the look of. Get a slice of that and you can make that happen. You obviously need your deer rack. You need some wire, steel wire. I use this, it says dark annealed steel wire. It's really any kind of decorative wire or anything like that. You're not going to see it anyway because it goes on the back. You're going to need some screws. A couple different lengths is usually pretty good. One of the screws you're going to use to actually attach the rack to the wood slice. The other screw you're going to put in the back of the wood slice to put the wire on so that you can have a mount to hang it on the wall. And then finally, you're going to use a metal plate that you can have made at probably any local trophy shop in your town. I like to use the one here in my town called OK Trophy. They've done a great job for me on a lot of these over the years. You can pick different colors that you like. When I first started doing these, I used a black metal plate with a silver lettering. Now I've switched to doing the silver metal plate with the black lettering, and I like the way that looks too. What I like to do with these is put the score of the deer on there, as well as the date which it was killed or harvested, and it makes it look really nice. So when you first start doing this, the first thing I would typically do is get your back part of your mount done first, because it's going to be easier to get that on without having antlers on the front of it. So you're going to take your two short screws. These are 1 5/8 screws, and then some wire. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get these in place. And I mean, the nice thing about this is whenever you go to put these on the wall, antlers are so different that you don't need a level to get it straight. Just kind of get it on there, what looks pretty good, and call that good. I need to turn my torque up a little bit there. You put two of these in there, and then you've got some wiggle room with the wire in between. Let's see, just about right there. That one went in there a lot nicer. Okay, so now I'm going to get the amount of wire you need. This wire, as infrequently as it's used, it's pretty cheap. So you can use as much as you want and wrap it around as many times as you want to kind of make it as sturdy as you want. Okay. Set that aside, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to, I mean, there's many ways to do this. I like to start in one spot or one end, wrap that end around there. All those years of building fence from cows getting out of my grandpa's pasture comes in handy here. And you get some flexible wire with this, because when you get all done getting it wrapped on there, you can then take a screwdriver. So I've got it wrapped on there. I'm going to bring this to you guys and show you here. You can kind of see. And this is the back. It's dirty. You're not going to see it. These sit in the barn all the time. So you can see it's like that. It's kind of flat on there right now. I can take, so you almost need something a little bit longer. A longer screwdriver, this pair of scissors will work well. That gets that popped out. So now you got a gap now that you can hang that on the wall with. Okay. So the back is done. Took two 1 5/8 inch screws. I guess I didn't figure that into the cost, but again, if you're doing this, I'm guessing you've probably got some screws around your property. Okay, so now I put that on top because of this big old crack in this one. I don't really want that at the bottom, so the antlers will cover that up a little bit. But now you kind of want to get this situated in a place that is going to leave you enough room at the bottom that you can put the plate on there. Again, this is, get it as straight as you can or as you like. I try to get it level where I cut the antlers off there. Get it as straight as you like there. And then you've got room at the bottom to put your plate whenever you're done. So now I've got 3-inch screws. You can gauge that by just holding one there and seeing if it's long enough. The nice thing about leaving the hair on these antlers is it's going to hide the screw when we're done. Now, what I will tell you is that these can be quite challenging sometimes. A deer's got a hard head, and their skull can get kind of difficult to get through. So I've broken screws off and stuff trying to do this, and it gets frustrating, but you can get it if you keep working at it. So after you get that first screw in, you're good. The second one, once you get it started, make sure before you go into the wood that you get the antlers situated just how you want them, because you want to make sure you get it right. Now, they should be on there pretty nice and sturdy. Sturdy enough because there we go. They're on there pretty sturdy now. This one I ended up, that one's not tight enough. Hold on. You can almost feel that cinch up when you get it on there. The best thing is if you can go straight down into it, that's the best. So you get a little bit of skull dust that comes through the hair, but ultimately you can clean that up and it's going to be hidden, and honestly, you're going to be the only one that sees it anyway. So yeah, make sure you get on there pretty tight. It's nice and tight. One of these is at an angle, so not ideal, but it'll work. You get two in there, that keeps it from swiveling. So that's that step. Then the last step, which is the fun part, is you get to put your plate on there to kind of commemorate the date and score of your deer. So when they first started making these for me, they had two little bitty screws that you attached it with. And man, those were difficult. It was difficult to find a screwdriver small enough for them that you could still push hard enough to get it into this wood. Nowadays, they've got these to where they've got an adhesive on the back, which for this purpose works fantastic because nobody's going to be bumping into it or messing with it. The thing is, you want to make sure that you get it on there straight. I like to line it up, not necessarily with the wood, but with the skull as well as I can. So kind of pre-fit it before you do it, wherever you want it to be on there. And again, this is for you. So however OCD you may be, get it as perfect as you want. I think I'm just going to put it right there. This adhesive is pretty sticky, so it stays on there pretty nice. Just give it a good press, and you might even let it sit and cure for a little bit. But then when it's all said and done, you've got your mount made. $7.50 for just the plate. Really, that's all I have in it, and that's the end product. It looks really nice. Some dust fell out there, but that's okay. It looks really nice. I'm going to bring it to you all so you can see up close. And then you just go find a place to put it on your wall. Get you a wall anchor, or if you can get to drill into a stud, you can put a screw into a stud there. And then you've got a nice little mount to put your deer antlers up. So it's not a head and shoulder mount, but when you get it all assembled and you get it all put together, the finished product looks really nice. And altogether, my cost in this is really $7.50 for the metal plate that I had made. So even if you had to buy a wood slice somewhere or some other sort of mounting base that you want to use, you could probably get those way more affordable than you can get a full head and shoulder mount. You can do this, honestly, about the week after you kill your deer, where if you take a head and shoulder mount to a taxidermist, you could be looking at 6 months, you could be looking at a year. I know with COVID, it really backed things up, and some guys weren't getting their mounts back for almost 2 years after they killed their deer. That takes a lot of the excitement out of it. I think you should always be proud of the deer that you kill, but if you can't put that mount together or get it back for that long of time, it really, I don't know, takes a lot of the excitement out of it. So when it comes to cutting the antlers off, we always try to go just a little bit in front of your main beams and your bases, and then also a little bit behind those main beams and bases. What works really well for this is you might need to cut through the hide a little bit with a knife first, but a reciprocating saw, a sawzall, whatever you want to call it, works fantastic for getting these cut off. In the past, we had used a hacksaw, and by hand, that can be a bit of work, but the reciprocating saw works really great for getting those off of there. And then what you want to do after that is take those, set them aside in a shed or somewhere outside of your house. Put some salt all over the inside of the skull after you rinse it out with some water, with a garden hose or something. Take some salt, put that all over the inside of it. That'll dry anything up in there as far as water, moisture, any leftover inside liquid of the skull. And it gets it all dried up, takes any sort of smell out of it. I've made the mistake before of leaving these attached to the head for even just a week after killing them, and it takes a while to get rid of that smell if you do that. So as soon as you can get the antlers cut off, get it rinsed out on the inside, and then sprinkle that salt on it and leave it set for about a week. That really does a good job of getting it dried out and removing any sort of odor. One correction I needed to give when it came to measuring deer antlers. In a previous video that I did about how to measure whitetail deer antlers, I made the comment while I was measuring the main beams that you go along the inside of the main beam with your shoelace or your string or your tape. The actual way to do this, someone corrected me in a comment, was you go along the outside of the main beam. So I looked that up and confirmed that, and sure enough, I've been measuring deer antlers wrong for several years. You go along the outside of the main beam as opposed to the inside of the main beam. Now, it looks like this only gains you 3 or 4 inches potentially, depending on the deer. For this specific deer, I went back and remeasured, and it got me about 3 or 4 more inches total on the score. So rather than being a 111, it would have been about a 115. So not a big difference when it comes to official scoring. I did say in that video I'm not an official scorer, so I do have that to lean back on. That being said, from now on, I'll be making sure if I'm measuring deer antlers, I'll be doing the outside of the main beam as opposed to the inside of the main beam. So that's how you put together a budget-friendly, still nice-looking whitetail rack deer antler mount. Could be any game you chase, I suppose you could do this with, but I've always just done it with whitetails. I've got a couple more hunts to go on this year before the season's over. We're into the second day of January right now, so I really plan on hopefully going the next couple weekends, which is going to get us to January 15th, which is the last day of Missouri's archery and deer season. So we're going to be getting into food plotting season here pretty soon. It's going to be here before we know it. So I look forward to bringing you guys some content around that, and then any other archery and deer hunting related content as well. If you guys like this video, I really appreciate you hitting that like button. Go ahead and subscribe if you like this and want to see more content like this, or check out some of my other videos. You can go back, and if you didn't get to watch the video on how to score whitetail deer antlers, I've got that one that I'll put as an end screen here. Thank you for watching Farming for Whitetails. We'll see you next time.